Welcome to this week's Entrepreneurial Artist. I'm Chris Mercer and I'm with my lovely camera ready, confident friend, Kat Machin.
Hi.
We're talking about being confident on camera. It's a big thing for a lot of people, isn't it? As soon as they pull the camera out, it's like, oh, some people just clam up instantly. It's not a normal thing for us, for a lot of people. A lot of people shine on camera, don't they? But a lot of people, as soon as you pull it out, they're not even talking like their normal selves.
Because like you think it should be the easiest thing in the world, because all you've got to do is talk. And
Just be normal.
goodness knows. That's very normal.
Yeah.
Easier said than done though sometimes.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? So how do we help people be more confident on camera? You know, a big thing is practice, isn't it? To get yourself out there and start talking in front of the camera. And it doesn't matter if you mess up either, does it? You know, it's just start doing something as a start.
I would say that sometimes even the mess ups give you that little bit of authenticity. There's something kind of nice about having a slightly flawed thing. It makes it feel more real in many ways. So, you know, almost trying to aim for not serious mess ups, but, you know, something.
Yeah, but that's I suppose if you're feeling comfortable, isn't it? Because you mess up and it's like, oh, it's okay. But like, maybe it's also taking it too seriously. Just, you know, chill out a little bit, that when you're doing it, it's not life or death here. It's just, you know, a new skill, actually. It's a new skill that you're learning.
It's like learning how to talk again. But it's funny because you say like it's not life and death, and it's sort of a mindset thing. And I think that does play into the whole like getting practice, because I think once you've practiced it over and over again, you realize it definitely is not life or death, because you've done it, you've messed up a million times and you're still here.
Yeah.
But when was it when you started to get good at being on camera?
You know what, Kat? Like, are we good at being on camera? You know?
Everyone's like, this is like, rubbish in the comments.
Yeah, it's like maybe it's now, do we care? No,
well, that's true. Seriously. Well, actually, you know what? That's a really good point, right? As far as mindset is like caring too much what other people think. Yeah. And I think this is true of like performing as an artist even. And I think I've said this in a prior episode, which is like on motivation, is that if you care too much about the end result, what happens is you cripple yourself in the moment. Yeah. And I think kind of like being worried about looking like you're going to make an idiot of yourself. I think if you just accept the fact that you are going to make an idiot of yourself, then I mean, it's all looking up from that point.
But I think the thing is as well, like, you know, what we see on camera from a lot of people are like Facebook, Instagram makeover things. So they've edited things. So
and not just that, but filmed it 20 times. You know?
Exactly. So it's like really take it with a grain of salt, a pinch of salt, or whatever, when you see something, because they've probably done it, you know, so many times. Like you were saying last week that you did a 60-second painting, but you took 16 times to do it.
It's ridiculous. That's okay. Yeah, it's good. I can't remember how many times it was, but it was a lot. It was a lot. And it took me all day to do a 60-second painting. Yeah. But and that's just how it is, isn't it? I would say that for me, when I started getting really good at talking on camera and being engaging, is actually through doing stories. And I think that's a good way of doing it. So on Instagram, obviously got stories feature. Facebook has also got, is it also called stories?
Yes,
it is called stories as well. Obviously Twitter used to have it, but it's no longer. Fleet is no longer a thing. They've changed their thing. But there's a beauty with it, like erasing after 24 hours. Because I was always like, well, if it's kind of rubbish, it's going to be gone. But because also I was doing like 4 or 5 a day, every day for like months, years, that after a bit I just, you know, and one of the things I love is like being able to talk to a camera as if you're talking to someone you know, and how different a conversation might be. Because I think there's always this like extreme pressure that I've got to promote, and what happens if, you know, but actually ultimately you don't need to like push yourself, and you don't necessarily need to sell yourself. All you need to do is like share what you're super passionate about and just let a bit of your passion out. And I think that just goes for so much more than any, than any like sales pitch or anything like that, because people don't really like sales pitches anyway.
No.
But you can, and I think also sometimes just getting a bit real with people. But it's a weird thing, because I mean, I've been talking to Ian about this, my partner, because he came from like a corporate setting. Every time he did like it does a video, it's like, a little corporate. And I think he's aware of it as well, but it's like trying to break out of it. And he was like, I was like, oh, it's not quite right. And he's like, well, what is it? And I said, well, if you were talking to your best friend, and you just like picture your best friend. And I think this is true. Like, if before you post a story, I sometimes say to myself, would I say this to someone? Like, I just make someone Chris, would I post this would I send, if I was just sending a video message to Chris, would I send this, me slaps cars that can fit 12 people in? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like versus the marketing messages versus like having something more authentic. So just asking that. Yeah, but then also not putting so much pressure on yourself, because whilst there's obviously all these rules of like how to make it authentic and all that stuff, ultimately just got to get started.
Yeah, I think having a objective to it as well, because like when we start our podcast, we have, the objective is to talk about being on camera. So when you actually get on camera, have something that you want to say, otherwise you might just find yourself waffling on. So have an objective before you get on. And also you can do a script. I find if I'm doing a presentation or something, I'm not a great fan of scripts and writing it all out, because then I become completely wooden and just rely on the paper, But if I've got bullet points, I find that's
bullet points.
Perfect.
Bullet points are so good.
Yeah.
Like making the points into kind of a story form and then just putting one word. It makes such a difference, because as you said, being wooden. So I don't know who I heard it. It was like, I think I was listening to Marissa Peer talking about avoiding rejection, not avoiding, but just not taking in anything that's like those critical words. And one of the ones that she used was like, oh gosh, when you did that speech, you were so wooden. You were an insult to wood. But it's like, I think that, and it's funny because I interview a lot of people for like when I onboard people, and there's an audio element, and you can instantly tell when someone's reading from a script, because it's very hard to read in like a very like fluid way.
So hard.
Like some people are very trained at it, and they're trained actors, and it's amazing what a talent it is. But actually, and also like news readers, but even them, obviously they're reading in like a news format. It doesn't feel like authentic in the sense of like how they would have I hope they wouldn't have a conversation with their friends or their spouse like that. And next.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those things, but getting practice, thinking about the mindset of things as well, like just I think there is a fear of rejection, and I think at some point we just have to be okay with, because, and I know this, it's all about being vulnerable, and vulnerable is really the path to connections, and making yourself vulnerable by putting yourself out there is actually how you build connections. And I mean, I know we talked about this in the Building a Community podcast, which was, the best way to build a connection with someone is through video, because like you're having a conversation, like almost, with them. Obviously you're not physically there. It's like a one-to-many platform, as in you as an individual can reach lots and lots of people and have almost like a personable chat. But like to really connect, and for someone to like to get to really know you, you got to be doing videos. So if just being okay with putting yourself out there and being like, what's that saying? Dare to suck at something new.
Yeah. And I suppose it's a very public way to do it. And I think the biggest thing when I think back is of probably my closest seeing it. Strangers you think I wasn't too bothered about, but then you think your closest people seeing your videos and that's what really sort of stuck with me, thinking, oh God, like I don't want to look an idiot here. But then that's more reason to try and look like yourself, because if you look like yourself, that's all that they're seeing anyway. It's no different. But you know what you can do is just put your camera on when you're around the house, get lots of practice. You know, if you're cooking, if you're doing anything, you know, that you can just put your camera on, film yourself, and just keep checking in or talking to yourself to just have a practice, because it's just familiarity, isn't it, with just keep doing it.
Yeah, I think getting familiarity, but I think also like getting over the fear of posting it as well, by just, and that's why I think that stories, and I suppose Snapchat as well, right? Anything that's like disposable within 24 hours is going to be really beneficial, because you can just practice and practice, and it's not like a permanent, you know, I mean, permanent record of whatever it is, you know. And I think that that's why people might, for me, people might be thought that I was always very good on camera, but it's because all my mess ups are like impermanent. They've already been and gone. So, you know, and I'm like totally fine with that. But yeah, I would say that it took me using stories and doing it multiple times a day. It took about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, to really get to a point where it doesn't faze me at all. And I've tried to like understand what it is that makes a really effective message, but it is just talking to people like human beings. Like, I think that people don't want to hear marketing message. Like, we literally, brain turns off when we think it's an advert straight away. But
a tricky thing, Kat, was for me was the eye contact, because, you know, especially if you're doing it on your phone, so it's like, be really aware of where you're looking, because if you need to look into that camera, otherwise it looks really weird, doesn't it?
It does. Although, you know,
something that I would do in the early stages.
Yeah, that is one thing, because obviously, especially if you've got your phone on landscape and you're giving yourself eye contact, you're actually looking off to the side. So I've done a series of different things. Like, I sometimes put a little dot underneath the camera, because some of the cameras interfaces, they just look like you can't even tell where the bloody camera is. Because but I recommend looking below, slightly below the camera, rather than or directly at it, because naturally what happens is when you have a conversation with a real human being, you actually most often don't give direct eye contact, but you will most likely look at people's mouths to, you know, and it's just like a bit of how we detect. So actually, if you look slightly below camera, it almost feels a little less confrontational for someone that's watching. I know that's a really weird thing. So I've often so if I had to do it, sometimes I would get my driving license. That's going to sound mad, but it's also like, I get my driving license and I tape it just below the camera, because it's just got a little picture of me or a little picture of someone, whoever's around. I've printed them. Sometimes.
I was going to say, the more you're sharing, Kat, the more people are finding out.
More I sound total mental. But it really works. So if you are like a little camera shy, and the idea of like looking down the barrel of a lens, because it is kind of like having to have this pally conversation with a, you know, a piece of an inanimate object, right? And that's kind of a bit strange. Is that I would actually print out, or I would have a picture of a person slightly below the lens. And that way I was not obscuring the lens. It would still look very natural, because it would just look like I was having a conversation but looking at someone's mouth. And then also it would just remind me where to look, because I think naturally, and this is the challenge with like having a front facing camera. So the benefit is, of course, you can tell whether you're in frame and all of that stuff, but humans are naturally drawn to people's eyes. Like, if someone walked into a room, you don't look at the floor, you look directly where you think their eyes would be. That's the first place you look. And obviously when you've got your own set of eyes, because I think, you know, looking back at you, it's very tempting. Like, it takes all your might and effort not to look at yourself.
It really does. It really does, because you want to see what you look like. You want to see if you look all right,
right?
You know, and all that. So that's really important, to not look at yourself, because that looks extremely weird. But
although
also,
that said, I would say that there's like a very prominent vlogger, Emma Chamberlain, and she's obviously got a camera with like a flip out screen, or she does a phone or whatever, and she's always looking off to the side, but it doesn't seem to matter too much for her. So but there is times, but I think what it does is it breaks it it breaks a continuity of the shot, because when you get into a video, you forget, because you forget that there's actually a camera. You actually just, your brain is just, you're there in the scene. And when they're looking off to the side, it reminds you that this is actually fake, that they're talking to a camera.
Yeah.
So,
also, maybe the rhythms and the way you speak as well. Because when I first started, I'd listen back to mine, and I was like, I was on slow motion. You think, what the hell is that? So that was really interesting. So it's, be kind to yourself, but it's really important to look back on going, well, how did it go with that shot? Because then I realized, okay, before I do these things, I need to lift my energy. I need to get a little bit, livelier and a bit more energetic, because it comes across differently, when you, probably comes across the same, but it was like,
right. It's funny, because the experience of like what you see on camera isn't the same as like what you see in real life, even though it's capturing you verbatim, because it's like a cropped down version of you and people don't get your energy and you can't really feel all of that stuff. That you do have to be like slightly peppier than you would be in natural, well, not like to the point where you're like, I mean, sometimes I'm like that, but like you just have to be a little bit more than normal. And that actually kind of more correlates accurately with real life. It's so strange, because because it's just the cropped down nature of video communication, right? I definitely think you're onto something there, Chris.
But it's us at our liveliest, at our best, and at our most engaging, isn't it? So it's not us sitting down, relaxing and, chilling. Well, it depends on what you're doing, what kind of videos and stuff like that. But it is us at our engaging. So when you see people on it, it's them who's put a little bit of effort into the energy that they're putting out there.
For some reason, all I can think of is like posh telephone voice. So my customer service voice is better than your customer service voice, but it's like trying to talk without that.
Yeah, that's not where you want to go, is it?
No. But I do think there's like certain circumstances where I make myself sound a bit posh. I come across as clever. It does crack me up.
I know she does, she'll do a recording just of her normal self, and then she'll do one like over the top, just go, too much, and then she'll pull it back, because I think it sets you up to go, okay, I'm going crazy here and that, and then when you settle it back 10%, 20%, you don't feel as if you're pushing it. Maybe I don't do that myself, but that works for her, but then before we get on air, we always
we have a chit chat.
We have a little chit chat. We might, even if we're feeling a bit flat, we do a little run or do a little jump to get us.
If we've not
had, to get the energy off.
Right. You've not had your coffee and you've got to do a video, do some jumping jacks, It's a very good point. So Chris, what are your top 3 takeaways?
My top 3 is it's not normal, it is a skill. So when you see people doing it, and then because it's so easy to go, well, I'll just get my phone out and I'll do one, and then yours isn't up to that standard. It's like, well, maybe it's because you've only done 3.
Yeah.
It is a skill. It is something that you'll have to learn and to practice and to take time to do. So that's number 1. Number 2 is critique what you're doing. So when you've had some practice, you're not criticizing what you're doing, which tends to be the way people go. You're actually critiquing it. How was I speaking? Was it engaging? Did it sound boring? Do I need to slow down? Do I need to speed up? So just critique it. And also
what you can do better.
What you can do better, yeah. And also when you've critiqued it, if you feel comfortable, find friends, people that you know who know you and you feel comfortable with, to say, have a look at that. Does that sound like me? Because if you've got your closest friends, they will tell you if that's like, that you just sound like you there, and you think that's exactly what you want. That's what you're looking for. Number 3, if you're not feeling it, sometimes just don't do it. You know, if it's not essential to do, sometimes it's very, very hard to get yourself pumped if you're flat, if you're feeling completely flat and it's just not working that day. It's just not working that day. Tomorrow you'll pick up again and it'll be different. But if it's just not working, sometimes just let it be that, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's a
three.
Great top three. So mine is just talk as if you're talking to a friend. You can tape a picture underneath the camera, but you know, I think it's important to ask yourself, well, would I talk to another human being exactly like this, and especially preferably one that you like?
Yeah.
And I think that makes a big difference, because it changes the mindset also of like how you disseminate information. Because if you're talking to a friend, you're less likely to sell them, but you're more likely to share your excitement about something. And I think that's also a very healthy mindset.
Nice.
So number 2, I've got keep it rolling. Smile and laugh, especially if you mess up, because they form some of the most amazing moments that are full of authenticity. Obviously, if you have a total car crash, feel free to restart. But like little hiccups, I think sometimes it's fine, you know, and kind of when you add those in, it feels so good to watch it, because people are aware that you're just human after all, and you literally can't beat that. It's amazing.
And people might have noticed that we sort of just leave ours rolling. There's not really, unless anything drastic happens, it's just like, oh, it's fine.
Right?
Yeah.
It is okay. And I think also just letting yourself know it's okay. 3, I've got get pumped up. Sometimes it could be like listening to music, watching a little comedy skit, having a chat with a friend or something to get you in the mood. And I think that's really good. Of course, if you're like in a very, very dark place, and it's very hard to turn the camera on, and I totally appreciate that. But if you're just feeling like, just watch something, have a little bit of emotion. It makes a big difference in the long run, just to like start like on a high. And I suppose to a degree, like posture and all of that stuff goes into it too. Although, as you can probably tell, I'm sort of like not the tallest and the tallest right now, but that can also help if you're feeling a bit flat too.
Yeah.
So
I've just thought
any
of
other
one actually.
go on then, Chris.
Well, I'll have a sneaky fourth like you usually do. Make sure like you're looking good, because you'll feel good if you're looking good. Like if your hair needs washing and you think, oh, I should have put some makeup on. As soon as you get on there, you're just going to feel like a dag. So it's like, if you feel good with the way you look and everything, then that's a definite tick to help you.
That does actually, because I washed my hair this morning exactly for that purpose. And I think a little bit of self-care routine, whatever that might look like. And it might not be, it might not be like full glam makeup, false eyelashes and lots of that, but it might just be like having a shower, just brushing your hair. And for me, I put my contact lenses in and stuff like that, things that, make me feel comfortable. But your own personal comfort is really important during these times. I think that's very, very important. Yeah. And we've not mentioned this, but I think it is worth saying, is that being in a place with reasonable lighting honestly pays dividends. Pays dividends. It pays dividends. No, it pays dividends. And sometimes good lighting can even beat the need for like, makeup or anything like that. Ring lights are so cheap. But that can really make a big difference. Even like they've got little tiny ones that like that, they clip on top of your phone that you can just have out and about. Those things are excellent. And if not, just stand near a window. And sometimes having a bit of natural light kind of lifts your mood as well. And that's kind of a good way to present yourself well on video as well. Like lighting makes a big old difference, I would say.
Nice.
Anything else, Chris? Any final sneaky fifths?
Just give it a go and have fun, and just keep trying, and don't be too hard on yourself. Just be nice, be kind. Yeah,
that's true. And just remember, everyone starts at the beginning, and at the beginning everyone sucks. So and it's okay if you're at the beginning too, have a bit of fun with it. And I said, like, if you just go with the mindset of, and it's the same mindset as doing artwork, have fun, learn something. If those are the two mindsets, it's going to be fine. So if you're all listening, are you going to be starting talking with the camera on? What's your challenges? If you got any suggestions for future episodes, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to follow us on all the socials. We will put the links in the descriptions. And next week, we are talking about how to make and sell prints. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.